Hey, what's going on there? It's Dr. Jason McCammon, board certified naturopathic doctor, also functional medicine practitioner, and we run Elite Health. So anyway, welcome. Today I want to talk to you about cannabis, and we're not going to get to everything under the sun with cannabis. It's a big topic, but there's going to be a lot of great information I can teach you on what I've learned over many, many years in practice and what I've seen in clinical practice with patients. It has an incredible upside. So let's get right into it, okay? First thing you want to understand is that it's been around for, probably thousands of years at least, right? Cultures around the world and ancient cultures have used cannabis in ceremonies and to heal things forever. It's just been amazing. And somewhere along the line, I believe it was in the kind of the 50s there, 40s or 50s, politically, it just started to get a bad rap. I think a political figure wanted to help them, get elected, so they really started vilifying cannabis for some reason. Let's just leave it at that. And then it became a Schedule I drug eventually. Schedule I drug with the federal government means it's right up there with like heroin, methamphetamine, okay, crack and cocaine, stuff like that. I mean, some really nasty street drugs. Now, can cannabis or marijuana be a big issue? Yeah. Can it cause health problems? Absolutely. We just don't see the numbers, though, of like absolute acute death from the substance like you would, again, alcohol, another drug that's not even really scheduled. But yet, we know it harms just so many people every year. Hundreds of thousands are harmed due to alcohol, yet it's so accepted culturally, right? And yet we still have this kind of stigma with cannabis, and I think we need to change that. Again, am I saying we should be smoking that stuff every minute we're awake? Nope, not saying that, okay? In fact, I'm making sure you understand this video is about education. I'm not suggesting you do anything, but I'm just letting you know some of the things I found that is backed up by research out there, okay? So anyway, getting back to the illegal end of things, it's just the Schedule I drugs are really scheduled to say, hey, there's no real medical use here, or it can't be safely used in supervision of a medical doctor. We know that's completely false. I just looked this up, and this is still what the federal government says about cannabis, which, again, as you know, even if you don't partake in this, that's just laughable, right? So let's get into some things that we can really educate you about and talk about some ins and outs of cannabis for a little bit here. So first of all, you have an endocannabinoid system. I first should point out, if you are a really healthy, well-balanced individual with a lot of your foundations really on point and, low toxicity, just really kicking butt in all those basics, you make endocannabinoids in your body. That's right. You make the same chemicals, some of the same chemicals that come in the marijuana plant or the hemp plant. However, when we're in balance, when we have chronic illness, when we don't feel well, when we have a dysregulated immune system, that's when things can get haywire and our body doesn't make those. And then that's why the exogenous use or adding it to your life may be helpful. So just know that. So we're basically designed to have some of these substances in our body in the right amount, okay? So let's talk about THC versus CBD. So there's really only one genetic strain of cannabis. There's just one. And what's happened is they've hybrid this original plant into more of a marijuana, okay, which you know as like the high plant, right, to get you high with a lot of THC, and it has almost no CBD in it. But remember, the natural, innate, or original version had lots of CBD. It had CBD and THC blended inside the plant, which we'll get to in a second. So when we just take THC, it has properties, but it can actually be, you got to be careful. It can be overdone. Of course, it does make most people high, right, have some of those hallucinogenic issues to it. I have some patients that will try to use that. They're like, hey, that's the only way I can sleep. But then I have nightmares and I wake up groggy. And I'm like, well, that's because it's knocking you out like a drug to pass out, like physically tired, but yet it does not help your brain to actually sleep. And you can see a lot of literature on that. Got to be careful with sleep with just THC alone. CBD, on the other hand, has really no affinity at all for the receptors that cause the high, and it's going to be more hybrid into the hemp plant. So again, we have hemp and marijuana, two different plants, but really remember the same genetics from the same original cannabis plant. They just been hybrid into two different directions. So anyway, if we can understand the benefit of CBD and THC, and then we combine them, which I'll talk about later, I think it's powerful. It's a powerful medicine. And when we do it right, we don't get the high that THC causes. We get all the benefit without some of that, the recreational drug type effect. If you're going for that, good for you, more power to you. But I'm trying to make sure people understand it can be used as a medicine without worrying about getting high from it. So some things here that THC can help us with is anti-inflammatory, anti-nausea, appetite stimulating, anti-anxiety for some people. Remember, everybody metabolizes things differently. And then analgesic for pain. I'm sure there's a lot more out there. I'm just letting you know the short list. CBD, very, very potent anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial. It actually can kill a lot of different substances in our body. It may be able to kill molds and some species of parasites and some other bacteriums. It's immunomodulatory, easy for me to say. CBD is. That means it can help our immune system turn on from the inside out and start helping us get healthier. It's anti-hypertensive, so basically it can help relax the smooth muscle tissue. So if I blew up in like a microscope here, like an artery or vein here, a blood vessel, the muscles inside there or in this thing contract. It's called smooth muscle tissue, and it can sometimes grab a little bit. And there's many reasons for that, but basically CBD can help relax that and help that blood flow better. So that's anti-hypertensive and another analgesic for pain. Now, again, what I kind of alluded to earlier is that we can combine THC and CBD in a 1-to-1 tincture. My favorite is when they take both substances, THC and CBD, and we want to get full spectrum, by the way, of both, and combine them into a tincture. Typically, this has an MCT, which is basically a coconut oil carrier or some other carrier, some kind of oil it kind of mixes those 1-to-1 ratios in there. We can get incredible benefit to the body. It is my number one go-to for relaxing the body throughout the day. Just take a smaller amount to make sure you just take the edge off. At night, some patients use a little bit more just to really help them get into a nice rhythm of sleep. It can be very powerful. If you use too much, you're probably not going to have a huge bad experience, but it can lower blood pressure substantially. As I mentioned, it is anti-hypertensive. I've actually had an issue with that myself. I don't sleep well on the road, and I use some to sleep, and I went to get up to go to the bathroom one night, and I did kind of did a little teetering thing, kind of fell over. It wasn't like anything bad. It was just my blood pressure had dropped that much because I used a little bit more than I probably should have. But again, no harm, no foul. So definitely got to be careful with that. Again, I do recommend working with the provider can help guide you on this because your individual needs are going to vary. But again, if we use a appropriate dose, it can really relax the mind body so you can actually sleep. That's just one, but there's many, many uses for this. I've had people that have tremendous PTSD, anxiety flare-ups. They're just barely able to get through the day, have done wonderful on this. And again, in conjunction with their providers and myself, we're able to get them off of a lot of the SSRI drugs and other drugs that they've been dependent on for years. Again, we have to be careful with that, but that is the goal that I like to use with patients here. So anyway, so that's the idea behind cannabis. It can be used safely. You just have to, again, get the right tincture. Now, you can use, of course, high dose CBD by itself. High dose CBD by itself, it can be quite expensive. You gotta look for full spectrum though. It's gotta be full spectrum. We want all those plant chemicals, which by the way, science still has not even identified all of them. Nature's amazing. We think we found some wow, we got these compounds identified, and then 20 years later, oh, there's another 25, 30 we didn't know about, and then there's 100, right? So let's not fool ourselves. Nature is so amazing. Let's leave it alone. What does that mean? Full spectrum. That means they're going to extract that CBD into the oil from the hemp plant, and it's going to have all those still left intact versus isolating 1 or 2 compounds. So that's what I highly encourage. Anyway, CBD used in full spectrum, again, like the hemp oil, we can use that without any THC at all. And again, there could be an upper limit based on your response to it, but again, very safe to use. I would encourage you to look for that locally somewhere. Again, I don't know your laws and where you're located, so check into that. But it can be used very safely for things, again, like pain and like helping you relax some things, okay? Now, is it gonna really solve root cause? Let's be clear here. If you're dealing with a mold toxicity issue, with a Lyme infection, a severe PTSD, major gut problems, it's not gonna cure those guys, okay? I wanna be clear. I'm just speaking to the fact that as we get healthy, we may be able to use cannabis as some type of adjunct therapy to help us take the edge off certain things that are like, again, pain, inflammation, and help us sleep better, okay? So hopefully that helped you out. To learn more, you can check out Dr. Jason ND, so drjasonnd.com, and learn more, and then we can go from there and see if we might be able to help you with finding root cause of your issues, because that's what I'm all about. Ultimately, you gotta find root cause and get a solution if you really want to take care of those health problems and put them in remission permanently, okay? So hope everything's going well for you, and be well. Talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.